following program is intended for mature audiences.
Hey, these uniforms are lame, man.
This is the new cut. Y'all be back. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Heard about this, Zach?
Yeah. I actually don't know anything about it.
A beat reporter for the Browns has reported that the team is seriously considering completely redoing their uniforms by 2020, which is the earliest opportunity they'd be allowed to tweak their uniforms after unveiling their last ones in 2015.
Maybe they should, figure out how to fix the team by 2020 first before they start worrying about the uniforms they're going to wear.
I just find it funny because when these uniforms were unveiled, a lot of people compared them to the one season 84 change, which back then there wasn't this 5-year rule, so you could so they basically ditched it as soon as they were able to, which was the next season. And this is basically the same thing because, as soon as they're talking about changing almost as soon as the league will let them.
Well, in 84, they actually did a tweak to those uniforms, not during the season, but I think in the preseason, the brown jerseys were actually orange numbers with white outlines. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they ever wore those, but that was the intent to start when they first made the switch in 84. By the time the season started, they had already switched that to white with orange.
I think they wore the orange numbers once, and in the preseason, the commentators couldn't see them from the bleachers, and it looked terrible on TV because this was pre-high definition.
I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they did this in the first place.
A lot of people are hoping that this means they're just going to go back to the old uniforms, but I don't think that's going to happen because that's just not the culture behind uniform design these days. Like, nobody wants to, especially in football, nobody wants to just go back to an old look. Everyone wants to, if there's going to be a new full-time uniform, people like to make a big deal about it. So what do you guys think will happen?
Honestly, I think they will go back to something similar to what they've always kind of looked like. Whether the Browns are good or bad, they at least always dressed nicely.
Yeah, they always looked good, no matter what. They always looked good.
I think this Nike thing is the first time it's really happened. And I don't know, Greg, is there a big backlash to these uniforms in Ohio, or are people just, dumb enough to keep buying whatever the Browns keep?
Honestly,
chugging?
You don't see a lot of people wearing the new stuff. You still see all the old stuff. As far as the secondary stuff like Cats, t-shirts and that, yeah, there's plenty of that with the new color scheme and all that. But the jerseys,
what new color scheme?
The orange has changed. I mean, there were some things
passionate dog pound orange,
right? But as far as the jerseys go, you don't see very many of them. I don't think they were very popular. What happened here was I think they thought the kids would love these things, and they just didn't because they're not. Look, it's orange and brown. I mean, I don't care what you do with it. 19-year-olds aren't going to get excited about that color combination because there's nothing cool about it.
The other thing with appealing to the kids, what do kids like more than anything else? A winning team.
Right.
And I'm sure there's a lot of kids that are growing up in Ohio that could give less of a shit about the Browns.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're so bad. I'm sure there's plenty of Cowboys fans in Ohio.
Steelers fans.
LeBron James.
Steelers. Yeah, there you go.
Steelers fans everywhere.
Right. And, it's just a thing that happens. You go through a stretch with a very bad team and you're going to start losing your base to something that's something close by, especially something with the NFL where you can access every team pretty much equally. Being the local team doesn't mean so much as it does in every other sport. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you're a bad NFL team, you're going to lose fans to whatever's good. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case with the young generation of Ohioans.
I really believe if you sat down and took a survey, like say where I live, it would probably break percentage-wise 60-40 in favor of the Browns. And in a presidential election, that's a landslide. But when you're talking like team loyalties, that's pretty bad. The further east you go, I mean, I'm sure right around Cleveland, it's probably more so. But outside of the area, the Cleveland, proper, the metropolitan area, I promise you that once you get past, like, say, 10 miles east of Cleveland, I guarantee you it's at least 50-50 Steelers-Browns, and it may be even worse than that.
Not much love for the Factory of Sadness.
No, they've been so horrible since they came back. First, you had the move, which kind of wiped out a lot of the older fan base like me. We just could never, ever quite get on board with the new team. Then you're terrible on top of it, and, yeah, I think Zach's right. The biggest issue here isn't the fact that the uniforms aren't great. It's that they're not a good team.
Because they've never been good. These new Browns they made the playoffs once.
And they blew a huge lead to the Steelers, too. I remember that. I think I was watching a Leafs game or something that night. Like, I was watching a hockey game of some sort.
Oh, the irony. We'll be watching a Leafs game, watching a collapse.
Ouch.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But I remember,
I haven't seen a balloon pop like that in a while.
I remember seeing like an update on that score, and I was like, oh, the Browns are winning. Good for them.
These numbers may not be exact, but I want to say the Browns were leading that game against the Steelers. It was a wild card playoff game. I think they were leading 33-9 and ended up losing.
It was a pretty substantial lead.
And you know who led that comeback? It wasn't Ben Roethlisberger.
No, it was Tommy Maddox.
Tommy Maddox, the immortal Tommy
XFL
Maddox.
MVP.
Yes. But yeah, I think Zach hit it right on the head. I don't think the issue is the uniforms at all. I think it's just that it's a bad, bad team. The only team I've ever seen that even approaches this level of ineptitude was the Buccaneers when they first started. I don't think I've ever seen a stretch like this where this team is just so freaking terrible, and you never even see any hope.
I was talking to a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, actually, and he was lamenting about how like the team just kind of seems stuck in a rut these days. And I said to him, like, well, you guys won a Super Bowl a couple years back. That's, you'll always have that. And he just rolled his eyes and goes, yeah, you know what? Law of averages said we had to accidentally stumble into one eventually.
Yeah, well, you would think.
And then I was like, yeah, but statistically speaking, the Browns should have had at least one winning season by now. Like,
well, just to give you an idea of what a clown show this thing has been from the start, the best record they've had since they've come back is 10-6, and that just happened to be a year that wasn't good enough to make the playoffs. The whole uniform thing, I would love to see them go back to the traditional look. It would certainly help me get back on board with them, and at least, I think I talked about it when they made the change a few years back, that they had pretty much stomped out the last remaining thing I had that connected me to the old team, which was the uniforms. Now, as far as these uniforms go, if you want to do a complete overhaul, that's fine, but I think these could be fixed and turn into pretty decent uniforms. They just made a few changes here and there.
I was thinking about this, and I really want them to go back to like one of their classic looks, because as Zach said, they've sucked, but at least up until the past couple of seasons, they always looked nice. But now they just kind of look terrible, and given the culture of how uniform unveilings are and uniform design is and how Nike is, like, this is still going to be up to a combination of the Browns brain trust and the Nike brain trust, and that is not a pairing that inspires confidence.
No, and I can't imagine Nike having this big unveiling where they go, look, we went back to the 86 Browns look.
Exactly.
That just doesn't generate a lot of heat. I mean, fans are going to love it. I would love it.
It's going to have like a cyborg bulldog logo on the ass or something.
Isn't the other thing, too, that they're talking about redoing the logo and not just repainting the helmet this time? They're actually going to come up with a logo.
Yeah, they are.
Well, how do you make a logo for the Browns?
Well, that's why they stuck with the helmet for so long.
Right.
The orange helmet for a team called the Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the new Browns are just such a hard thing to really kind of get a grip on for somebody that's not there. It's just like,
dude, I am here and I can't get a grip on it. It's not location, believe me.
I guess it's in general, because it's like, again, law of averages would suggest that the team should have stumbled into being good by now with all the high picks that they had. Even like look at the Edmonton Oilers. Like, they were bad. They get all these first-round picks, and eventually you get the next, big
eventually
thing.
Like, statistics start to come into play, and they manage to put something together.
In the NFL, you can't just keep drafting left wingers, and then eventually three of them turn out to be pretty good. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Well, right. But at some point, they haven't stumbled into the best quarterback of a generation or something like that.
Oh, my God. How many have they missed on? The Johnny Manziel disaster, where I kept saying, no. You want Teddy Bridgewater. He's the better bet here. Not Johnny Manziel, Teddy Bridgewater. No! Johnny Manziel's the guy everybody's talking about, and he got the money sign thing, and the kids will love him.
And Teddy Bridgewater isn't like the greatest quarterback of a generation, but he's damn good.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
A huge boon at the position.
I've got to think if they had picked him instead of Manziel, they would be in much better shape than they're in right now. And I will give them credit for this, though. This year, they've got that buttload of draft picks, and I'm not hearing a lot of talk like, oh, we're going to grab Mitch Trubisky or whatever that guy's name is, or Deshaun Watson. I mean, we're going to play it cool. And then again, though, they go out and make a trade for freaking Brock Osweiler. Now, granted, they're not going to use him for anything, but still.
Right, but all that's kind of the point, though. Like, at some point, they should have stumbled into something even half decent.
Yeah.
Like, the only half decent Brown that I can think of over the last 10 years or whatever is Joe Thomas.
Joe Thomas, yeah.
And he's an offensive tackle. Not exactly the billboard guy you're going to put out there to sell tickets.
The other guy, he's either a cornerback or a safety. Joe Hayden, is that his name?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's not bad, but you're right. It's not like they've been a team that's got a great defense if they only had a quarterback, or they've got great receivers, but if they only had they don't have great anything. They've got Joe Thomas and Hayden, and then they've gotten nothing else.
If I could
it's
just
a shitty team with shitty uniforms. In I don't know, is the stadium okay, or is it?
I've never been there.
Too?
Never been there.
Really? It is a newer stadium, so I have to imagine it's not terrible.
I've heard it's very nice.
I did want to touch on something that Zach mentioned about how this is a team that's hard to wrap your mind around, and I get what he's saying. For someone of our generation, all of this seems like, from the team name to the uniforms to the logos, it all seems very old-fashioned. And if this was a team that had legitimately been around since, say, the 40s, I'd get it. But because I was coming into football just after the original team left, even though I know the NFL considers it one long franchise, I know subconsciously that this is just a 1999 expansion team. And so a lot of the vintage elements of their identity that are even still there today, even with the revamp, don't quite seem to fit. If the Browns had never moved and I saw everything about this brand, I'd be like, all right, they're an older team. They kind of came about before team names and logos were a thing. I get it. But they're not. They're only a year older than the Houston Texans.
I think it's pretty obvious had the Browns stayed and didn't move to Baltimore that this team would be more successful than it is now, because look at least
two-time Super Bowl champion Cleveland Browns.
Well, I mean, but I'm not even talking about that sort of stuff. I'm just saying even the Baltimore Ravens as of right now are a decently competitive, well-run franchise for the most part.
Even when they have a bad season, you always know they're going to turn it around. It's not going to last.
Even when they have a bad season, though, like this season was one of their worst seasons, and they were still in the hunt until like the last part of the season when everyone else kind of started to pull away from them. But they were in it much longer than a lot of people thought they would be.
But I don't even want to make this as an excuse of, well, they're an expansion team that just hasn't gotten their footing. The Texans have been around for a short amount of time, and they're a respectable franchise. You look at the other expansion teams over the last couple expansion runs. The Jaguars, pretty good organization overall for what it is.
A few playoff runs.
Yeah, but on the field, they've been a pretty good team. The Panthers, pretty damn good team.
2 NFC titles, yeah.
But the Browns, we're edging in on 20 years of new Browns football almost. And they haven't done a damn thing, and they can't even be like respectably competitive some years. They're just bad.
No, I think
it's a franchise with no direction.
They've had 2 winning seasons, the 9-7 playoff year, and then that 10-6 year. I don't think they've even done as good as an 8-8. Other than that, I think maybe 6-10 might be their next best record. After that, I don't think they've done 7-9 even. They had 2 seasons where where the law of big numbers said, okay, they have to have a winning season here or there, so those 2 happen, and that's been it. I mean, it's been a lot of like 5-11s, 4-12s, and just no hope at all.
It's one of those things that you just ask, what is it eventually going to take to finally get this team out of being what it is. It's happened with a lot of historically bad franchises. The Clippers eventually got out of what they were. We can still make fun of them because it's still pretty funny.
They're still going to blow a huge playoff lead to Houston.
Right.
It's going to be funny.
But they pulled them. They're not the doormat that they once were.
You don't look at them
no longer the doormat they once were.
Right. You don't look at either one of those teams and say these teams are just completely without hope.
Hell, the Saints might start to suck again soon, but at least they have a Super Bowl to their name. Like, they did turn it around. They managed to put together a winning team.
I think they didn't have their first winning season until I want to say 86 or 87, and they came into the league in 67 maybe? Sounds about right.
67 for the Falcons.
Okay, so 20 years with the first winning season, but since then they've been pretty competitive. I mean, they haven't had a really horrific run since then. I mean, they haven't been great. You know, they had a Super Bowl in there, but I mean, they haven't.
Well, there was the Ditka years.
The Ditka years, the Aaron Brooks Saints.
Yeah.
Would like to have a talk with you. I remember one of the first football games I watched on TV. It was the Saints versus the Chargers, and Aaron Brooks turned around and threw a pass backwards, like threw it straight backwards. That's the one thing that always sticks out of my mind about Aaron Brooks. Just he threw a pass backwards one time, and I saw it on TV live.
Who was the quarterback for the Lions who ran out of bounds?
Orlovsky, is that right?
Dan Orlovsky. He was a member of the winless Lions, and the near winless Colts. So,
imagine you're sitting in a bar and you're talking to people and you go, yeah, I played in the NFL. And they go, okay, well, who'd you play for? And you go, well, I was on the 0-16 Lions and I almost went winless with the Colts.
Yeah, the 1-15 Colts and the...
It's kind of like how Matt Flynn should probably not tell his kids that he was in the NFL. Because...
Dad, where do we get all this money from?
I'm an importer-exporter.
Oh, man. If I was Matt Flynn, I'd be telling everybody, like, you can't believe, look at all the money I made. And I didn't do a damn thing. I had one good game against Detroit, and look at this.
That's going to be hilarious. Like, if one of his kids' friends is like, hey, I found out your dad played in the NFL, and they pull up, like, the Matt Flynn stat sheet.
Was he the quarterback at LSU when they won the national championship?
Yes.
Okay, so he's got that, too.
Was he the backup when the Packers won the Super Bowl?
Oh, wow. I don't remember.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was, because he got that huge deal from Seattle because he won that one game to save their playoff chances when Aaron Rodgers was hurt. Then the Packers made the playoffs, went on to win the Super Bowl, and then Seattle paid him all that money to sit behind Russell Wilson.
Come on, Matt Flynn, really? You could have saved us from Russell Wilson. That's a reason not to like the guy right there.
All you had to do was be better than Russell Wilson in one training camp.
That's it. And look at all the misery you have spared us by doing that. Oh, Matt Flynn, I'm pissed off at him now. I didn't even think about it like that. Damn. What were we talking about with the quarterback thing? I don't remember. There was a point I wanted to make, and now I'm lost. But anyway, back to the Browns. I don't know what the hell you do. You know, I know what the point I was going to make. They are in a position right now. If they don't botch it, they've got a lot of draft picks. They've got plenty of cap space. They are in a position to finally put a foundation in place to finally get this team right. Now, whether they do it or not is anybody's guess, but I think as far as where they are, this is the best shape they've been in since they've come back.
Yesterday was the 20th anniversary of the brawl between the Red Wings and the Avs in Detroit.
It was such a great ride.
Really, was it?
20 years later, both of those teams are last place in their respective conferences.
So Detroit's not going to make the playoffs this year, right?
No.
Yeah, see, I predicted they would. I guess I was wrong on that one.
Well, they're dead last, too. It's like...
So no chance. They're officially eliminated.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Or I think the Devils were the first team officially eliminated, but I don't think the Red Wings have actually been officially eliminated yet.
I think the first team to be officially eliminated actually was the Colorado Avalanche, because I remember
it was the Avs. The Avs were out. The Vancouver was out. I would assume that means Arizona's out too, and then New Jersey. Yeah. Okay, so Detroit's actually a couple points up on New Jersey, so they're not officially eliminated yet.
They
are 12 points behind Boston.
72 points with how many you have to play? Let's see.
They've got 62. 8 games left, so they can. There's technically they're still alive.
Yeah.
They're 12 points out with 16 possible points available. So,
But
not
speaking of
officially-
NHL standings, guys, let's take a look at the top 3 teams in the Atlantic.
Whoa! What's
Oh, Canada.
this? Look at that number 3 team there. How about that?
Native land. But it was last year that no Canadian team made the playoffs, and now
Well, wouldn't this be so? Imagine. Just let's open up the imagination box a little bit.
Please, let's do it.
Opening round, Ottawa, Toronto. Classic rivalry, right? Sure. Let's say the Leafs beat the Sens, and in the second
5-0.
round,
5-0.
and in the second round, then they could possibly play Montreal.
Montreal, Toronto. Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, you know what the damn shame about that is we won't get to see any of that on TV down here.
I think Montreal and Toronto is something they would show.
I would hope.
I think we could at least get that.
You know what though?
I'm still pushing for a late Winnipeg surge. Let's get Winnipeg in the playoffs, and then we can have that Ottawa Winnipeg Stanley Cup Finals that will melt NBC Sports down.
I was watching. Was it Penguins and was the Flyers? I think last night. I don't remember. Pens had on their yellow alternate jerseys, but anyway. And after the game, I almost fell out of my chair because they actually mentioned the Columbus Blue Jackets. I was very pleased by that.
They can't not.
I think they'd play Pittsburgh in the first round of the playoffs right now if the season ended today, right?
The playoff format's so funny. So the Rangers are the first wild card team, but and if they play Montreal, they'll have more points than Montreal in the standings, and they'll be the team on the road, of course. And then you're going to have 2 100-point teams playing each other in the first round, whether it's Washington, Columbus, or Pittsburgh.
Because they don't do they don't do 1 through 8 anymore, right? It's
they don't, because that was too simple and straightforward. So we had to
bring that back. Need to bring that back. And look at my Blue Jackets, 103 points. Holy hell!
Yeah, best season in franchise history.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
Every time they win another game, they keep.
They have more points than the mighty Chicago Blackhawks do. Wow.
Yeah,
it's been a good year.
Of course, if Toronto ends up even having a chance at playing Montreal in the playoffs, I'll have to hear what I hear from my dad like every year, only doubled, which is it's such a shame we can never see Montreal and Toronto play for the Stanley Cup again.
But he should say it in French to really emphasize it.
Well, his plan, and I kind of make fun of him for it, but at the same time, I kind of go, it's not the worst proposal, but his idea would be you take the top 8 teams from each conference, make the playoffs, and then you completely reseed them a straight 1 through 16, and then divvy the playoffs up that way.
They would never go for that.
I wouldn't like that either.
And then his justification is that way you still have a chance at something like, say, Toronto and Montreal playing for the Cup, potentially.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but then what's the point of the whole regular season? I mean, you're going to have the top 16. There's no divisions. Mm-hmm. So, if you're one of these top teams, or not even if you're the top team, say you're playing along and you're, the 4th best team in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you get to that point in the season, you'd be the 4th best team, or the 4th best team in the league, 5th best team in the league, whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, we're not going to be bad enough to ever fall out of the playoffs, but we're not going to be good enough to actually win a regular season title of anything. So,
yeah,
okay, I guess we're just going to hang out.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just sort of putting it forward.
I know it was something that the NBA actually seriously proposed at one point because of the imbalance.
Was that along with the Zionist conspiracy draft?
I think it was a precursor to that.
Well, there was talk of the NFL doing that too back in the 80s or the 90s, where the NFC had won, I think, 10 out of the last 13 Super Bowls or something like that, and everybody's
didn't the AFC end up rolling off 8 of the next 10 or something? So
something like that. It was when Denver beat the Packers is when the AFC finally broke through, and it was the first time they'd won, I want to say, since '83. But there was talk then, they've got to reseed this because it's ridiculous. It's like everything's cyclical. It'll all come back around, and it always does. You don't overreact to anything when it comes to this kind of stuff.
You could do that in the NFL, though. I don't think if you just threw everybody into the same pot and mixed it up, I don't think it'd be bad. Might even be a good thing.
it wouldn't be bad, but the traditionalist in me is like, must respect the AFC NFC divide, AFL forever.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean that matters, but then you also get to a point where it's like, all right, so who's going to win the AFC roulette wheel this year? Is it going to be the Steelers, Patriots, or Broncos? Which one's it going to be? And then you just kind of wait around and see what happens.
We're not even into April. We haven't even gotten to the draft yet. And it's already basically that's it for the AFC, right? Like, no one's going to rise up. I mean, we say maybe the Chiefs every year, and we know that's not going to happen. The Raiders, maybe.
Well,
with David Carr or Derek Carr healthy and all that, and they could probably do it.
Should we segue into that, though, about our glorious Raiders and their glorious new home? Because it's official now.
Their glorious new home in 3 seasons while they play out the string in Oakland.
Yeah.
With throwing things at them.
We thought it was going to be funny watching the Chargers play to 8,000 people in a soccer stadium or whatever it is. This is going to be bad. Because you've got the Oakland Coliseum is going to be, a third full if they're lucky for the next 3 years?
Well,
which is a shame too, because they're a really good team, and why do you got to screw things up like this right now?
See, here's the thing. I think because they're such a good team, and the Raiders are kind of an anomaly. I think in that their fans are so diehard, and they get so many people from elsewhere. Like the amount of California or Southern California fans that go up to these Oakland games is staggering sometimes. So I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as we think. It's going to be stupid. It's going to be kind of stupid, and they may have some bad games, but I think because they're good and because they kind of draw from everywhere else, that it's not going to be terrible. And because of course the fans are just so diehard, I don't think they really care where the team plays.
And Vegas is still close enough that you could make a trip out of it.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. They should be, some teams just should never move, and the Raiders, I think, should stay in Oakland, but that's just the way it goes. Now, what's to stop Oakland? I mean, I guess they've got a lease, but what's to stop Oakland from going, you know what, screw you. You don't get to use our Coliseum anymore, so we don't know what you're going to do now. That's what I would do.
Probably a lot of money, breach of contract money.
Yeah.
Sure, that's
funny, though, if they did it.
Oh, yeah. But what ground does Oakland have to stand on for that? Like, they want the team there as long as they can. They tried to.
Hey, look, you know what? I hate to see the Raiders move, but I'm also glad that the city didn't bend over and go, yes, we're going to give you all this tax money for a new stadium. I never have a problem with that.
Well, and to the city's detriment, though, they're going to lose the Raiders. The Warriors are moving back to San Francisco soon enough. And, the clock is ticking on how long the A's stay there.
Well, not only that, but even if the A's do stay there, have fun with those 12,000 a game.
Right. Oakland's going to lose all its pro sports teams in a matter of, 10 years.
Yeah.
Pretty, Not that I care a whole lot about the feelings of Oakland.
To me, though, part of what makes it okay in a way is that everything about this is so Raiders. Like, California wasn't going to work out for them in any sense of the word. Dean Spanos was always going to cock block them from LA. The city of Oakland was broke, so there was never going to be any money coming on that front. And so Mark Davis, to his credit, was like, screw y'all, go into Vegas. And that's something I could see Al doing. So
I guess
don't know.
If they've got to move, I think that Vegas is probably the place that it seems to fit best from they don't seem ridiculous being called the Las Vegas Raiders. Whereas, I don't know, I think I would have loved if they'd gone to San Antonio, and maybe it would have worked there too, but maybe not. I don't think of pirate ships in San Antonio very often.
From a cultural standpoint, though, I think the Oakland or the Raiders just fits Vegas to a lot of it.
It fits Vegas, and everything about it just seems so perfect. Like, apparently now the public money that's going to the stadium has been increased from $750 million to close to $1 billion.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so it's like, if any I've said it before, but if any locale was going to be corrupt enough to actually break that $1 billion mark, it's going to be Nevada. It's going to be Nevada, and that just everything just fits so well.
Yeah, I can't wait to see games in PF Chang Stadium. It's going to be great.
Oh, wouldn't that be the best if there was a P.F. Chang's in the stadium and then Mark didn't have to actually go there? Like, he didn't actually have to drive there anymore?
What it's going to be is his suite will be the P.F. Chang's. And he'll just get to sit there the entire game.
The best actually was on the board when Bring Back the Vet was like, wait a minute, I thought all of this P.F. Chang stuff was just like a CCSLC meme.
Oh, he didn't know it was real.
He didn't know it was real until someone linked him to that story about how he drives a 1997 minivan with a VCR player.
VCR is just what makes it poetry, if you ask me. I just think that's what makes it beautiful.
Oh,
I am surprised, though, that I'm reading an article here that it was Dolphins owner Stephen Ross was the guy that voted against the move. Mm-hmm. And he said it was, because of fans. And I thought that's kind of cool, but I don't know that, he would
fans.
He said that my position today was that we as owners as a league owe it to fans to do everything we can to stay in communities that have supported us until all options have been exhausted. So basically, he voted against the move because he didn't want to screw the fans of Oakland, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oakland's exhausted their options.
Well, yeah,
they literally have no money. Like, that's what it came down to.
They tried a last-ditch effort, and Roger Goodell looked at it for like 5 seconds, said, "Yeah, no thanks."
But I like I told Mike earlier, we were talking about this on text, and I said, I thought it would be, if a team voted against it, it would be Pittsburgh or someone. I really didn't expect it to be the Dolphins.
I didn't really get that, though. Why do you think Pittsburgh would have done it?
Just because they're the Rooneys, they're very traditional, and that would have been my guess. I really had no reason other than the fact that they're just older than dirt. And
you want to know what would have been extremely, just added a little bit more spice to this, and just for the laughs, if the one vote was Dean Spanos.
No, would have been better is if Mark Davis had voted against it. Now that would have been hysterical.
Well, those are the Raiders traditionally abstain.
I don't know, but you know what? He should have done that just to be Mark Davis, because he
should have voted against his own proposal.
Yeah, he's still going to win 30-2, so vote against it. Man, that would make headlines. Not to mention he'd become a hero in my eyes. He'd be like, that's the funniest fucking thing ever.
To me, Mark Davis is already a hero. 1, for his 97 VCR-equipped minivan. 2, for the P.F. Chang's. And 3, for the fact that, he actually put the AFL logo in the end zone during the NFL's big 50th Super Bowl anniversary.
I can't believe you went through 3 things and the haircut wasn't any of them. Come on.
Well, I had to keep it to a top 3.
Right.
I mean, but the joke is he actually going to move his barber to Las Vegas too?
Just bring the bowl along. That's all he needs.
Yeah, you can find a salad bowl at Target anywhere.
A salad bowl and a pair of scissors. You're good to go, man. I just wish that they would do that. I mean, it would have just been the greatest thing in the history of the NFL if he had voted against his own move. Just because he knows he's got the votes. I don't know. People need to do more stuff like that. It makes the world way more interesting.
Well, the Raiders are always the Raiders, and I'm happy to see that. I would prefer if they stayed in Oakland, but at the same time, for the reasons Zach went over, this just fits, man. This is something. And I hope that when they build that new stadium, they put a statue of Al Davis out front, and he has to be flipping the double birds in the general direction of California. That's just how that's got to go down.
Well,
the only thing that pisses me off the most about this, just because of how easy it ended up going through too.
Mm-hmm.
Dean, you had more fucking time. You should have stayed in San Diego.
Yep.
The Raiders weren't ever going to push you for LA because they were like, no, we're good with Vegas. No, but I got to get to LA before you. Well, we're going to Vegas, so you can take her. I'm in LA. All right, Dean.
I was talking about Mark Davis voting against his own proposal. I forgot Dean Spanos has already done that.
He did, yes.
Yeah.
The Chargers officially announced, I think it was last week, that they're putting their headquarters and their practice fields down here in Orange County and Costa Mesa.
So they're your team now.
Nope.
Come on, Zach.
Yeah. No, not really.
Guys, let's wrap up I guess would this be the 3rd round of the Glorious Tournament of Victory, the Sensual Sweet 16, or the whatever we're calling it?
Sensual 16, yeah.
Sensual 16.
We will start, as we always do, with Andy's region. the Bill Paxton Memorial Region being played at Jack Concannon Stadium in Oblong, Illinois. Your matchups are number 1 seed, Endless Tacos, taking on the sinking depression of remembering Robin Williams killed himself. Do we have a prediction?
I'm going to go with the Tacos. The Tacos, I think, really have that momentum. Like, I really can't see anything unseating them at this point.
Yeah, they've got the momentum, and nothing can cure your depression like an endless stream of tacos.
You are exactly right. It was not even close from the start. A 10-point win for Endless Tacos. They take this round 19-9 and move on to the whatever we call the Elite Eight.
Egregious Eight.
The Egregious Eight. Up next, number 2 seed, the sinking depression of living in Trump's America, taking on number 6 seed, Bill Belichick in an ironclad warship.
I gotta go with the depression, man. This is just the year for sinking, crippling depression on political matters.
As people have pointed out smartly in their arguments, Bill Belichick is a fan of Donald Trump, as is Robert Kraft. So I think if there's anybody that would be unfazed by the depression, he wouldn't even think of it as depression. He thinks things are fine, and he's just going to keep charging along in his warship. Bill Belichick. And
that's exactly what he did. Bill Belichick in an ironclad warship, knocking out the last representative from the Sinking Depression Conference, 16-12. Pretty close matchup. I really thought that the Sinking Depression of living in Trump's America really had a shot at taking the whole thing, but it goes down to defeat, and Bill Belichick and his ironclad warship will move on. So there you go. So the final, what does that make it? The final, where are we at? 8 now, right?
Yeah, we're at 8.
Okay, so in the next round, it will be the Endless Tacos, number 1 seed, taking on Bill Belichick in an ironclad warship. In the goddamn Batman Memorial Region at Arthur's Urbe Coliseum in Forks of Salmon, California, thank you. Number 1 seed, the Sacred Moose Leg of Flin Flon, Manitoba, taking on Outback's new 3-point Bloomin' Onion.
Respect the leg, eh?
Okay, that 3-point Bloomin' Onion looks absolutely ridiculous, but like Endless Tacos, I think the Sacred Moose Leg of Flin Flon, that's a tough one. That is an entry tailor-made for this tournament, and I'm not saying...
According to my Facebook thing, a year ago this last week, it was introduced to the world, the Sacred Moose Leg of Flin Flon, so it's been quite the year for the Moose Leg.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I'm not saying it's unbeatable, but I don't see it going down this early. I'm going to say that the Moose Leg had a relatively easy go of it.
Oddly enough, my girlfriend and I had a conversation about the Glorious Sermon of Victory today, and we were talking about some of the favorites. And we both agree that the Sacred Moose Leg of Manitoba, Flin Flon, Manitoba, is probably the favorite to win the whole thing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so, and again, made quick work of Outback's new 3-point Bloomin' Onion, 21-7, never even a contest. And a surprise to no one, the Sacred Moose Leg of Flin Flon, Manitoba will move on.
Yeah. It's on path with destiny.
Up next, number 2 seed, the THX Sound Before Movies, taking on number 6 seed, a surprise, I think, team that made it to the Sweet 16, Breakfast for Dinner.
Look, I'm just gonna
dinner.
I'm gonna continue to be shameless in my support for Breakfast for Dinner. I will never vote against, nor will I ever pick against Breakfast for Dinner. So I've ridden the trains so far. I got to stay on it.
Yeah, I mean, I found a compilation of all the THX sounds over the years, and I posted that in the thread, and it's just quite powerful. It really shakes your bones. But I gotta tell you, the life that this Breakfast for Dinner thing has had, I know I like Breakfast for Dinner, but I didn't expect it to have this sort of surge. But it's had a powerful run. I'm very interested to see how this result plays out.
I, like you guys, I am surprised as you are and how far Breakfast for Dinner has gone in this thing. It's been a much stronger contender than I thought it would be. And I'm honestly a little surprised that the THX Sound Before Movies has made it this far. But in a pretty close matchup, believe it or not, Breakfast for Dinner goes down to defeat, 16-12 at the hands of THX Sound Before Movies. I know I voted for Breakfast for Dinner.
So did I. I got to admit, this one stings.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by this.
I'm gonna get some heat from this one. That was my girlfriend's last selection in the tournament. And,
Yeah.
So my top 2 seeds make it to the egregious 8. Very interesting. So what was the final score on that one?
16-12.
Well, not pretty close still.
Pretty close, yeah. Moving on to the Sentinel Prime Memorial Region of Excellence, taking place at Lauren Chabot Lumber Dome in Balls Falls, Ontario.
The Lumber Dome.
I looked up what a big Canadian export is, and it was lumber, and I thought, okay, Lumber Dome, there we go. Number 1 seed, Anti-Trump Bald Eagle, taking on number 5 seed, the surprise of the tournament, the Mensch on the Bench, Israel's World Baseball Classic mascot.
Wow.
A lot of people liking the Anti-Trump Bald Eagle to make a run all the way to the Final Four.
I'm telling you, it was, like we said, it was a team that made a splash last year, but it's really come into its own. It's found its time. And Mensch on the Bench eventually ran out of steam in the World Baseball Classic. Go USA, by the way. Congratulations on us.
A bunch of really exciting games to get there, and then a complete snooze fest in the championship. Way to go, WBC. Nice job.
Thank you to the Canadian team's pitcher for winning the game for the Americans against the team that he played for before because he's part Puerto Rican. Whatever. But yeah, I think the Mensch on the Bench meets its match here with the God, what was it playing? Oh my God,
Anti-Trump Bald Eagle.
And the Bald Eagle. It's really come into its own. It's the right time for the Anti-Trump Eagle.
I mean, the Anti-Trump Bald Eagle, like, I would think it would have the easy time of it, but then again, the sinking depression of Trump's America was unable to win, so that's tough. Maybe I've been assigning, too much momentum to these anti-Trump entries. Maybe they don't quite have what it takes. I'm going to go with Mensch on a Bench just based on what I've seen on the boards. It seems like there's a lot of people sort of rallying behind the Mensch on the Bench for confused reasons. Like, people seem unsure if it's okay to be okay with this sort of thing, but that seems to be like, sure, why not? So I got to think that the Mensch on the Bench has at least enough in it to get to the egregious 8.
Well, every year it seems like we have an entry that kind of takes off and takes on a life of its own. This year, in this matchup, I think we have 2 such entries. Both of these, I think that the Mensch on the Bench made a much longer run than I anticipated. I loved it, but I wasn't sure if I was supposed to love it. I didn't feel good about loving it, but I couldn't help but love it. The Anti-Trump Bald Eagle, like Zach said, was a strong contender last year, back again this year. But you know what, folks? We had ourselves an upset. The Mensch on the Bench moves on. Anti-Trump Bald Eagle going home. Final score again, 16-12. The Mensch on the Bench continues its magical run in the glorious tournament of victory. A little bit of a surprise there.
I'm shocked, honestly.
Wow.
But at the same time, in these tournaments, sometimes you just have an entry that gets hot at just the right time, right?
Yeah.
And not only does it get hot at just the right time, but it just sort of builds off its momentum. It's sort of a snowball effect, and I think that's where Mensch on the Bench is right now, at least.
You got to remember that the winner from 2 years ago, Teddy Roosevelt, Astride of War Orca, was, I think, a 5 or 6 seed. Kind of got the same kind of run going, and the next thing you know, it was going home with the trophy. So, yes, the Mensch on the Bench continues its run, and we'll move on to the egregious 8. Up next, in a matchup that I think was the matchup of the tournament so far, number 10 seed, Tom Brady Sex Toy, taking on number 11 seed, Freaky Mr. Rogers statue. Tightest match of the tournament so far, by the way, guys.
Really?
Other than the tie we had to break, yes, it's the tightest match.
2 very disturbing entries for 2 very different reasons.
I'm surprised that you're saying it's as close as it is, because as fun as the Tom Brady dildo was, I think anybody that's gotten a good look at this Mr. Rogers statue just sees that it's weird. It's a weird thing. And
I would almost describe the statue as Lovecraftian in its ability to upset something deep and primal in the human soul. Like, you just look at it and you know something is wrong. You don't know what it is, but something is wrong.
Exactly right. So I'm going to have to place my bets with the statue, but the fact that it's this close, I guess the Tom Brady hate is pretty strong. I don't know.
I got to go with the statue, too. Again, we've seen statues go far in this tournament. The cursed KSE statue defeated Jupiter. We've seen this statue. It took out the Russell, Manitoba beer thief dressed as a goalie. Everyone thought that would have a strong run, but it fell prey to the statue. I know it was close, but I gotta think that statues just do well, and this is a pretty powerful statue. So
statues just do well. What a statement!
They do.
Well, as I said, closest match of the tournament, short of the tie we had to decide last week. Every year we get that entrant that just goes on this amazing run, even more amazing than like a run like the Mensch on the Bench, and that is going to be Tom Brady's sex toy this year.
Whoa.
Moves on 15-13 over Freaky Mr. Rogers statue. Yes.
Oh.
Yep. I'm a little surprised by that one. I thought the sex toy had seen its end when it met Freaky Mr. Rogers here in this round, but nope. Close, but Brady sex toy moves on.
Well, that is the other side of it. Statues tend to have good showings in these tournaments, but the statue conference has yet to select a champion. So Mike, I mean, yours is the bracket of upsets.
Yeah,
it is. The Mensch on the Bench versus Tom Brady's sex toy. I gotta admit, when I was putting my bracket together, I thought these were two really amusing entries. I thought maybe they would win a round or two, but I was not expecting this.
Well, here's the problem that I see for your bracket going forward, though. In your quest to finally break through amongst the champions of our tournament, it's like we talk about with the regular NCAA tournament. All these upsets are great until you eventually get to a point where, like, oh, we have these teams left.
Exactly. I've actually been thinking about it. I've actually been thinking about the Sentinel Prime Memorial Region of Excellence.
Being played at Lawrence Chabot Center in Balls Falls, Ontario.
In the Lumberdome. Which I have to think is like a 70s style domed stadium, only the inside of it is wood paneled.
Yeah, exactly.
And just sort of thinking about it, and yes, I've actually thought about this in my free time, in my off hours. I was thinking about, like, why have we had so much trouble sort of putting together a winner, right? Like we've, and I think if you look back at the history of this tournament, you'll see that we've hosted some pretty awesome matchups, some pretty nail biters, some real primetime quality matchups. But at the end of the day, we play a very wild style here in the Sentinel Prime Memorial Region of Excellence. It lends itself to upsets, and as a result, a lot of times we have maybe a lower seed going into the Final Four, and they're just not able to push through that one last juggernaut. And we're kind of like the SEC,
right?
The SEC in that way. We cannibalize each other. To the
I was
going to
say the exact same thing. Yeah, by the time your entrants make it to the Final Four, they're so beat to death because it's just a brutal run every year through your region. I mean, there's no question about it.
I'll make no bones about it. Sentinel Prime Memorial Region of Excellence is a meat grinder.
That's right. So the matchups will be the Mensch on the Bench taking on Tom Brady's sex toy. That's going to be a knockdown drag out there, folks.
I mean, on one hand, they're two mascots of Googly Eyes. How does that play into it?
The Googly Eye Conference making a comeback.
And finally, in the Bernie Kosar knows what it means to be a Cleveland Brown region, played at Foots Walker Arena in Mudsock, Ohio. Number 4 seed, Chimp Biker Gang, Darwin's Disciples, taking on number 9 seed, 1974 Winnebago. And we were talking, another conversation my girlfriend and I had today. When does the chimp fatigue start taking effect in this tournament?
I've got to be completely honest with you. If there was ever going to be chimp fatigue, I think we would have seen it by now. I don't think chimp fatigue is going to be a thing that factors into this tournament, into this particular tournament or future tournaments. It would have manifested itself by now.
I have to agree because I really thought coming into this year, I thought they'll be lucky to get past the Sweet 16. just don't see it happening. It's, they're just tired of it. It's just chimps all the time.
Yeah.
They're like the North Carolinas, the Dukes, the whatever. But
they're like Texas. They even got their own network now.
Yeah.
It's like
Chip Channel.
The Chimp Channel.
But I know I did see some support for the Winnebago, more than I had thought. To be perfectly honest, I'm surprised the Winnebago is where it is.
I am too.
And
see, like breakfast with dinner, I've been on the Winnebago since day one, and and nothing against the chimps, but I gotta ride the Winnebago train to the very end, because God damn it, that's just a cool looking Winnebago, and I would not be adverse to traveling, the country in it. So, God damn it, going on the Winnebago.
Well, like you said, Mike, it looks like the chimp fatigue is not going to set in, because the chimps, again, and I think what has been their most dominant performance in a GTOV to date, another blowout win, 20-8, Chimp Biker Gang, Darwin's Disciples, sends home the 1974 Winnebago. The Chimp Conference is just, it's just a monster. I don't even know what you say about it anymore.
what was the score on that one?
20-8.
Wow.
They have put up a double-digit win in every matchup they've played so far.
I mean,
Really?
on one hand, I get it, because it's, you figure that if you just have a single Winnebago going up against an entire Chimp Biker Gang, it's not going to be hard for that Chimp Biker Gang to overrun the Winnebago.
Now, my girlfriend had a theory about the Chimp Biker Gang. She said that what makes it great is that they're called Darwin's Disciples. Like, if you just called it Chimp Biker Gang, it might not have the same effect, but adding Darwin's Disciples is what really makes it work. What do you guys think?
It gives them an identity. Gives
It
them
does,
a branding. Yeah. I would agree.
Okay.
They're not just a bunch of chimps on motorcycles. They have a purpose. They have a focus.
They're organized.
Yep.
And finally, number 14 seed Russian Dash Cam taking on number 15 seed. Boy, talk about your upset matchup here. 14 against the 15. Russian Dash Cam taking on Wonder Sauna Hot Pants, the 15 seed.
This one I don't know how to peg. I've been a fan of the Hot Pants. I love Russian Dash Cam. This is one that I can see splitting either way.
The Russian Dash Cam, I think, just had. I mean, the sauna pants are fantastic, but the dash cam is just so crazy, and you never know what's going to happen. Like, you never know when you're going to wake up one morning and just see a link to some new crazy Russian dash cam footage. I mean, we've got meteors falling out of the sky, the crazy traffic accidents, police brutality. You never know. I got to think that unpredictability is going to favor the dash cam.
Well, it was a fairly close match, but not that close. But I will say that I do believe this is as far as the As Seen on TV conference has ever gotten in this tournament. But had to end, and the Russian Dash Cam moves on to a win with a 17-11 final score. So in the matchup, in the what it means to be a Cleveland Brown region, it will be Chimp Biker Gang, Darwin's Disciples taking on the Russian Dash Cam. That wraps up scoring for the Sensual 16 and the Glorious Tournament victory. All right, we got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right, well then, I guess we'll call it a night. Follow us on Twitter and get your links to vote in the 2017 Glorious Tournament of Victory at Basically Sports.
Tournament. Victory.
Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube. Find us on Facebook and all that other good stuff. And until next time, I guess we'll see you around.
See you guys.